Call to order the Public Safety Committee at 7:01. Okay, we're here to consider approval of the minutes of the Special Public Safety Committee meeting held on November 14th, 2017.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
So moved and seconded, so ordered.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it, and so ordered. Item number 2 on the agenda, consider approval, number 3, discuss ambulance contract extension or request for proposals.
Good evening. Per the village board meeting on November 21st, staff was instructed and staff further met to discuss exploring the RFP options for the ambulance contract. So after further discussion and talking with Chief Reeder, we're recommending that we explore the options of an RFP. We've got a few of the different options that are out there right now. That's RFP of the current service, RFP of a blended contract and in-house service, and RFP contract length. It's sort of our recommendation as staff that we go with the general RFP. That way we can further discuss amongst staff and then also the Public Safety Committee on the different options that could go into the RFP to further see what we have available for us. And that would include also the blended service of utilizing the fire-based EMS to offset some of the costs with the ambulance contract.
Okay. Any comments from the board?
Nope.
Just a couple quick questions on this blended EMS. I mean, you've been in the EMS area for a while. Is this going to be like, will we get quicker response times and, better service with that?
What we're talking about is the blended. Currently right now we have more than half of the members of the fire department are paramedics or EMTs. So we've explored the option of getting ALS certified as a fire department.
Right.
And then offsetting some of those, possibly a reduction of an ambulance, more people to respond to an incident.
Potentially quicker?
Potentially quicker.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of, I'm just trying to see what the benefits. Is it going to be significantly more expensive or kind of comparable?
Well, I think that's, as we move forward and putting the RFP together, we'll look at those items and put them in front of the board again or the committee to show the different cost benefits that we have there of what it might have the impact to our budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Trustee Brady, Tom Vanna, the owner of Kurt's Ambulance, is here. He wanted to say a few words also.
Okay, Mr. Vanna?
Thank you all very much for allowing me an opportunity to speak to you. Over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of discussion as to whether the contract should be renewed or go out to RFP, and direction has changed a couple times. So I felt that it would be important for me just to come here today in light of the fact that many of the board members here today weren't involved in the previous negotiations or the previous RFP process. So I thought today, with that political sensitivity, understanding that the mayor is related to the previous vendor, I thought it was important to just point out some of the significant processes that we went through, the changes. In the actual RFP process, Kurt's, our bid over your previous vendor was a difference of $812,212 less over a 4-year period as submitted. Also, when we proposed that previously, I think one of the things that we presented to your board was full disclosure and complete accountability to the board. So when we did the initial RFP process, we weren't really able to ascertain any type of receivables or what the contract was generating previously. In our case, what we did is we submitted to your community our bid, which was the cost of the process, or the cost to provide the items that were requested, as well as a fair market profit on top of that. And then what we agreed to is that we would go ahead and return any receivables in excess of our cost plus profit. And in doing so, in years 1 and 2 only, and we don't have the complete projections out yet for 3 and 4, we'll obviously, we're just starting that. We've returned to date $363,327. So 2 years with the 4-year subsidy, as well as what's been returned, the savings to your community has been $1.175 million to date. We still have year 3 and 4 to go through. The other part about our accountability is that we, in the way that it worked previously, is that when a call was dispatched.
Hold on one second.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Somebody go to the lectern, please.
Thank you.
So the second part of the accountability.
Mr. Vanna, pardon me for 1 minute. Is the woman? Apologies for that.
So in an effort to increase the transparency and accountability, what we did is that we made a couple of fundamental changes to the way the previous program worked. Number 1 was dispatching. Previously, the dispatcher, if you called 911 in your community, you would be immediately connected to the 911 center here in Tinley, and if it was related to EMS, that call was then transferred to the previous vendor, and it was dispatched from that point on outside of your 911 center. Our suggestion is we move that dispatcher into your center so that we sit alongside and there's no delay in transferring the call from the 911 center to the other. And with that, we have, your RFP requested that we achieve a 4 to 6 minute response time in the primary areas. And cumulative average response time for 14, 15, 16, and 17 year to date is 4.207 minutes for response time. So I think it's worked quite well. The other item that we felt was important is that the fire department and the ambulances respond cohesively. Every other community you go to, the ambulance and fire departments work alongside each other. So in this case, what we suggested was working out of the firehouses alongside the fire department. You live with them, you train with them, you get to know them. Previously, your ambulances were stationed at various areas throughout the community. And sometimes that was a parking lot, that was a building, whatever it might have been. And that's certainly no way to have employees living out of their ambulances. So living within the fire department, I think, was a very significant accomplishment. The other thing that we did is that part of the RFP required that we have a supervisor within the community, in addition to what the paramedics do. We enhanced that to not only provide you with a paramedic supervisor, but we also provided with an educational instructor, state certified for EMS training, as well as a supervisor that is on shift working each and every day in addition to that. But the real enhancement that we did there is we provided an emergency response vehicle to you. And that's an ALS Chase vehicle. So it has all the capabilities of a paramedic on there, all the ALS capabilities. And that was an enhancement that was not part of the RFP process, but we felt was in the best interest of the community. So in addition to the 5 ambulances, now you have that person that's out there giving care to the community. So those are some of the things that I just really thought were important to understand, that we really kind of evolved this into a full-time EMS program. With that being said, in addition to the savings and the enhancements of the program, what we had done was to go ahead and to offer you a 2-year renewal at the same terms and conditions that you're experiencing in year 4 of the contract. And so, of course, the first initial thought and comments that I heard was, well, if they're offering that, they must be making a lot of money. Well, that's in fact not necessarily the truth. We're making fair market profit, but our relationship with AMR, which you are aware of, has allowed us to go ahead and to offer this where perhaps previously we may not have been able to do. And so with that being said, what I'd like to explain is a little bit more in detail about the offer. And that is that we're offering to you an additional 24 months in the current terms and conditions. And so there is no cost increase to you. An RFP process, you could go out, you could experience cost increases, whatever it might be. A lot of things can happen between now and next August. So what we thought, and when we were listening to the discussion here about you perhaps wanting to tweak the system or perhaps to have it more integrated with the fire department, was to offer you this so you can control the cost. But we also gave you a 30-day out, which your attorney put into the agreement because initially it looked as though you were going to go ahead and renew. And so that 30 days is still your out. So if you decide in June that you want to go out to an RFP process, you'll have the ability to do that. And I know that in the past, the previous vendor, there was litigation after the contract ended. Okay, this is to protect you so that you won't have that litigation occur again. All you have to do is just give us 30 days out and walk away, or tell us, Tom, we're going to give you a month to month until such time that we go through the RFP process. So this really was intended to be an area where we felt that it would protect you and Tinley, you know, to continue. I know if some of my vendors would tell me that they would give me pricing that was submitted 6 years ago or 4 years ago for years 5 and 6. I mean, that's certainly a wonderful deal for your community, I would think. So it really wasn't an effort on our behalf to offer you something that we thought was in your best interest. It still gave you the flexibility to do whatever it is that you want to do, whether that's RFP. It doesn't matter. That 30-day out is with or without cause. It really was to protect you and to save that until you all as a board decided what exactly the direction the fire department was and EMS was going to take going forward. And now there are certainly advantages to us too, such as keeping the business, obviously, but it also helps us with retention of employees and things like that, because these individuals have house payments, car payments, things of that nature. So we're just, it's an effort to go ahead and to protect our staff too. So it has advantages to both of our organizations. So with that being said, I mean, regardless what your decision is going forward or how it perhaps will turn out, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I thank you for certainly the opportunity to serve your community, and whatever your decision is, we'll certainly stand behind you, support that, and hopefully be a part of that process. So thank you and good luck to you in your decisions.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming in. Any comments from the board? Okay, someone else might address? Come on up, sir. Sorry.
Evening. My
Evening.
name is Chris Vandenberg. For those of you who don't know, I'm the president of Trace Ambulance. And with Mr. Vanna making a few points about the contract, I also thought that there were a few things that should be brought up over the process that occurred a little bit less than 4 years ago. I know Mr. Vanna was touting the $363,000 that has been returned to the village, but essentially that's an amount that was overcharged to the village on an annual basis. If they expected that they were going to have a return in that, why did they not just lower their contract price? When this RFP went out 4 years ago, we had actually communicated to the village that as opposed to the price that Kurtz was doing it, that we would do it for $800,000 a year to provide those services. That is significantly lower than the current contract price that was there. Mr. Vanner alluded that calls were transferred from the 911 center to our dispatch center prior to the dispatch being, the ambulance being dispatched, and that was not quite exactly how it worked. I would like to point out during the RFP process and during the pre-bid meeting, the EMA director at the time, Pat Carr, had indicated that the intent of the RFP was to provide the exact same services that they had in place at that time. The current vendor had deviated from that, and the board had chose to proceed with that and bring the folks into the firehouse. One other thing that was brought up was about the supervisor and about having them located in the firehouses. Trace Ambulance actually rented space throughout the village to station the vehicles. We would also move the vehicles to provide an optimum response time so that they're not always sitting in the firehouse, so that all of the ambulances are on a call except for one in one firehouse. If they had to respond, they'd be responding to the other side of town. It's an important feature of how it's operated. Also, he had discussed the supervisor car. Trace Ambulance is located in Tinley Park, and we have 60 ambulances that are based in Tinley Park. The corporate headquarters, including our management team, are located in Tinley Park. We also regularly had a vehicle, a chase vehicle, as it's typically called, that was available to be deployed by either one of the owners of the company or the general manager that was on staff at all times. So while it's being brought as something that was specifically set forth in the contract, that was always a service that Trace Ambulance did provide to the village. It really can't overemphasize the fact that we have 60 ambulances that are based in Tinley Park. So when the 5 ambulances that are contracted are being used, we also were bringing additional ambulances in, and on many occasions had more than 10 ambulances that were in some way, shape, or form responding to a Tinley call. I appreciate Mr. Vanna's point regarding the extension of the contract at prices that existed 4 years ago. We had a lower price 4 years ago, and actually 8 years prior to that, we had reduced our price. We expect that we would be able to come in with an RFP that would be lower than the existing price that Mr. Vanna is discussing. So I do appreciate the consideration of the board in allowing this process to proceed and going through RFP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
So during the RFP process, so when was that, 2013, 14, or
I believe it was 2014.
14? Was that, so how many ambulance companies bid on that?
I believe the staff would be in a better position on that. I believe there were three folks that had turned in proposals, but only 2 that were deemed responsive by the time the 5 p.m. deadline.
And yours was 800,000?
Correct.
Okay, and you didn't get the contract?
Correct.
Was the 800,000 the first go around? That was the initial request? The proposal you put in?
The initial proposal that we put in had $805,000 per year. Correct.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are we ever going to move to bringing in having our own full-time paramedics? I mean, is that even a question? Because came to this board a year and a half ago, and I started questioning the qualifications of people that were responding to the calls. There's a lot of turnover in any of these. If you're outsourcing this type of thing and you're paying someone $11 an hour, minimum wage is a stepping stone. He just said that they've been overcharging us, but after this happened in my life, I read these contracts, and I believe it's not that they overcharge us. I believe part of the contract, and I don't know if you can confirm, states that after they reach a certain level, we earn a % back. Is that true? I mean, does anybody know the contract, or that's something? I don't know. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's what it says in the contract, so to me, that's not somebody overcharging us. So I'm tired of the politics. I'm tired of the decisions being made by people being abused and people being feeling pressure of us coming up here and speaking as residents. We have a right to come here and not be sued. We have a right to come here and speak our minds of how we feel. I've lived with somebody responding to my husband, and I know how I feel about that. I know that he told me now. I want to get with that. I just want to make sure that we are going. I thought we were extending a contract, so we were working towards something better. That we are working to improve our residents, that when somebody comes to save our lives, we know we got the best person there, not saving a $3 charge. I don't want to save money. I don't want to squander money. I don't want to save money on somebody coming to save my life. That's all I want to say.
Hi. What is the approximate cost to do an RFP?
Go ahead.
I would, it would be staff time. We have the prior RFP that we have, and then working along with Chief Reeder, we would put together, it'd be mostly staff time. So I would say probably a couple $1,000 staff time.
Okay. Any idea how long it takes to put it together? Start to finish, so developing it, going out, accepting the bids, coming back, interviewing.
Based on the decision tonight, we would like to get out the RFP end of January, early February, with a response mid-March.
Okay. So we're doing an RFP, or thinking about doing an RFP, when we already have a company that has saved us $1,175,000 plus. We have the potential to get another 360, 380, maybe more, if our firemen and paramedics get ALS certified. You know, you're reducing maybe one ambulance. That 363 could potentially go up. So you're looking at almost $1,600,000 over a 4-year period.
I don't believe the reducing, as far as getting the fire, we have, like you said, it's over 60 people that are certified as paramedics currently right now, and they're not allowed to come to your house to do life-saving measures other than CPR. So, I mean, we're trying to utilize them to not save money, not take an ambulance out of town, more as a quicker response as far as better service to the residents.
Okay.
You know, it's a life, you know, when people talk about saving money with the ambulance, I totally disagree with that. It's life safety. We shouldn't put a dollar figure on life safety.
Okay, I agree with that. But the bottom line is still potentially saving $1.6 million over a 4-year period. Why on earth would we go to an RFP? I mean, it's your fiscal duty. I agree, life-saving is important. They've proven at this point.
Just for that reason, it is our duty, and that's what we talked about, is trying to check over contracts, not just keep things status quo. So we should take contracts as they come up, that we had nothing to do with them in the past, and review them to make sure it's the best one that's out there for us, both in saving our lives and cost.
$1.17 million could be considered status quo.
Well, as far as keeping the same contract over and over and over and renewing it, so we want to take a better look at it.
It's not over and over and over. They've had it for 2 years. They're into their 3rd year. This isn't something like a 30-year contract like the previous one. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at somebody who just has only been doing this for 2.5 years and has already saved us a huge amount of money. Why are you going to waste staff's time? Why, not to mention money. You have a fiscal responsibility to every resident in this town. And I think you are breaching that fiduciary duty at this point.
Anybody else with a comment?
No. Trustee Brady? So we're not even at public comment yet. We got to, you know, this is on your guys' agenda later. So I believe it was motioned up by the committee of the whole. I think, you know, Manager Carr made his recommendation to you guys to go with option 1, I believe it was, Pat. If you guys want to take that, and, you know, I think that's what the full board wanted this committee to do. If
Correct.
you don't want to do that, vote that way as well. I'd make another motion, but you know, before we get on to public comment, I think, you know, we've got to move or not move this item up.
Okay.
So,
well, go ahead.
No, so I'm not on the committee, but just so you're not considering the blended? I thought the blended was the one where the guys in the firehouse that are certified. would be
What
brought
we
in.
can do if we move forward, if we give the direction to move forward with the RFP, we could also look at that blended option as part of that process of the RFP.
I think everybody kind of agrees that the most important thing is public safety, and that you got to have the right guys there as quick as possible. I mean, the cost is important, but so is having the right guys there as quickly as possible. I would like to at least consider looking at having some of the guys in the firehouses that are certified be brought in the fold and used where they can to kind of speed delivery of services, or at least have somebody there or waiting. My big question is the 30 days versus the RFP. Do we lose, can we do the extension, do the RFP, and then still use that 30 days if we like one of the things that happen? I mean, that's, I'm not understanding why we couldn't do both.
I don't think the price is locked, and once you do an RFP, that's it.
But from what he's saying, that the gentleman that stepped up, he said, you know, if you extend the contract, you could, you know, get rid of it after 30 days. You know what I'm saying? If we come back with an RFP that's a significantly lower price, quicker response times, works with the guys we've got, or they come up with some new, better idea to provide quicker, more reliable services, it's certainly something we need to consider. And I realize that these guys are cost savings from the last one, but it seems that there's some changes in conditions as far as, you know, are there guys stationed in the firehouse or not? You know what I mean? That's obviously a cost savings if you don't have to rent space to house your guys. My big question is, could we extend it, do the RFP simultaneously? If it comes back, there's a cost savings or a efficiency, speed, time, reliability increase, could we then adopt that, give notice that we're, you know, not going to renew it, and then go forward? I know that doesn't help you much with reliability and paying your guys going forward. You know, obviously you'd like that long term, but you said there's a 30-day option to get out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my big question, Pat, and maybe you could answer it.
Sure. I mean, the contract ends July 31st.
Right.
So we have, you know, approximately eight months.
Okay.
Purpose of the extension was to look at getting the fire department ALS certified. That's going to take about a year.
Right.
Okay, so it isn't going to be an automatic, and there's costs involved. There's a budget process that we have to bring forward to the board to approve for some of those costs to get to that level.
Right.
So the purpose of the extension was to get some of that done. I believe if we move forward with an RFP, we could still do something similar, putting in the RFP that this might happen, you know, a year or two into the contract, and have the option to reduce things within that period of the contract.
If we decided come July that we wanted to renew the contract after going through the RFP and not liking anything that happened, would we still have that option?
What option's that? I'm sorry.
So if he's saying the contract expires in July.
Correct.
If we go to RFP, we don't find anything that we like better, cheaper, faster, could we still extend the contract come July?
I put in, when we initially had this ready for extension, in the extension document, I put in there a clause that said you have a 30-day out for the village, at your discretion, anytime, for no reason or any reason at all. They'd have to agree to that. They would have to agree to that.
But it's in there now.
It's not in your contract now.
The extension they might agree to, they might not agree to.
That they
come
had
July.
agreed to here. I mean,
Okay, understood.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna, I mean, if that's something that the board wanted to do, we talked to them about it, but, you know.
Okay.
So I guess it's possible, I guess would be the best answer.
We have to realize that it's going to, for some reason, if we switch vendors, we would need a good 3 to 4 months to ramp up, to allow that vendor to ramp up to get vehicles, personnel, things like that. So waiting to the last minute wouldn't do us any good to then decide whether we're going to RFP or do something toward the end. So
Right, I'm not suggesting waiting the last minute, I'm just trying to keep both options open if that's possible and be able to transition as smoothly as possible, which it's not going to be an easy, smooth transition, it doesn't seem like. Sorry.
You done, Mike? I don't
Yeah,
wanna-
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm just
No, I
trying
don't wanna-
Are you
to.
done?
If we're just over 3 years into this contract,
Two.
well, no, if the contract ends, actually, was it 3 or 4 year?
it was a 4-year contract.
Okay, so we're
And in
over
July.
3 years. We're over 3 years. Why did we, I'm confused, because last year when I was sitting in the audience, we had a lawsuit and we paid out an ambulance company last year. Why do we have a lawsuit?
Why?
Yeah, I wasn't on the board. Why did we have a lawsuit, Pat?
I wasn't here when it was filed, but yeah, there was a lawsuit that was settled. I don't remember I couldn't tell you the exact allegations as we sit here. I didn't handle that. You know, I can't remember. I think it went to your turn, so.
Mike, do you know?
Somebody, but there was a lawsuit settled.
I can't really comment much on it, but what I remember were there was an allegation that there was some residual amounts due through the original contract that hadn't been paid.
I think.
And it started out a large amount and eventually was negotiated down to a lower amount.
Yeah. Right. Here's.
Can you get that stuff to us, Pat?
Yes.
Thanks.
Pat, you got something to add to that?
Yeah, I think we're getting a little far into the weeds at evaluating companies right now. You know, I think the decision, you know, the committee of the whole moved it to the board. The decision you got, you know, does this committee want to go to RFP or not? I mean, I think it's, you know, whether,
Right.
I don't know, you know.
I'd like to
once you
make a
go
motion
RFP, It's
to-
open to the whole world.
I'd like to make a
Tech
motion to
companies.
accept Pat's recommendation that you suggested, Pat.
Second.
I'd probably
All those in
move
favor
second.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so ordered.
Motion carries. Now you gotta do public comment.
Any more public comment? No? Oh. Yes? Again.
I don't think.
All right. For the past, I don't know, 4 years, going to be 4 years coming up, that you guys have had this contract where I seemingly don't understand, and why I've never understood in this town, because it don't matter what board's up here, nobody gets it, is you have people doing a service, they're doing the best job that they possibly can, and what always seems to be the one thing that's the elephant in the room that nobody ever talks about is how much are they making? You got a almost 60,000 population town. You got two major highways with I-57 and I-80 they're going through. You've got Harlem Avenue that is busy, Oak Park Avenue that's busy, 183rd Street that's busy, 80th Avenue that's busy. And I don't understand, and LaGrange Road that you cover, I don't understand when we talk about wanting the best, it's always about the cheap route or how much did we save. I didn't know that when everybody, I spoke up here last year talking about the collective money that everybody makes in this town, like per household, is like over $75,000. So you know the people that are paying these high taxes in this town, they're not really getting what they're paying for. They're getting a facade. We come to these meetings, and it's the same as always, but yet nobody's ever talking about certain things. And when it comes down to the paramedics, are they overworked? What's the turnover? How many paramedics have we gone through on the 4-year contract, on this contract, and it's only been 3 years? Does anybody know? Can anybody answer that question? How much do they get paid? Does anybody want to answer that question? Silence like always. Because why? It's embarrassment. It's a complete embarrassment. Average, what do they make? An average amount, $11 to $12 an hour? Taking care of people who are making $75,000 a year on an average? Something wrong with that? Something not wrong with them working up to 96 hours straight? Is there something not wrong with that? Nobody ever thinks that, okay, when if God forbid anything ever happens to me or my family, you know, the people that are coming to help take care of us, what's the condition of them? How are they doing? Are they overworked? Are they tired? Well, the answer is 9 out of 10 if you're working 96 hours straight, I would think that it is. You'd be very tired, and you'd be a liability for driving that ambulance or taking care of my loved one. So I just can't understand that when I hear, oh, this cost savings of $1 million. Yeah, okay, you may see that now, but what happens when somebody's husband gets in a bad wreck? Somebody makes a mistake. Why? Because they've been working too much. We don't think of the things that are going on day to day that affect. And by the way, who's in charge of day-to-day operations on this thing, on this contract? I know Kurtz was, or what Kurtz brought in, the business, but who's doing the day-to-day overall operations of this thing? Who is? Nobody wants to talk. I don't understand. Thank you.
I just want to tell you, the trustees, I am very disappointed that you are going to move forward with this. If we cannot rely on you guys to make the best decisions for those of us that have to or want to live in this community for long term, and if we don't believe that, like he's saying, that we should have full-time people who are going to stay in these jobs and who are going to come to save our people. Has anybody here had somebody fall and need to call the ambulance to save their life? Mr. Brady, how long was any other contract before the one we have now for 2 years? Because how long was the contract before that? Do you know?
It was...
that we had somebody in here?
I believe it was 10 years.
10 years? So we had someone in here 10 years. Obviously, it must not have been great if we switched it, right? I looked into a lot of this, and it seems like we are getting to a much better place. We are working them in. We have made we've made a lot of good changes in 2 years. Is that enough time to? We've given it enough time that you feel that now we're going to switch it again, and maybe get a different company in here and start all over? If something happens to another person in my family, I'm going to thank all of you for making this decision. That $11 an hour of a job, that now we're going to start all over and look for another company to do this, even though we have made improvements and we have gotten to a better place. I'll come to thank you for that.
Motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so ordered.